Howdy, everybody. This is the region-free vidcast for Track 2 IGUSW podcast. Apparently, the vidcast is unable to be played in all regions because, unfortunately, YouTube restricts the use of Paul McCartney's song we've got in the intro there. So I've removed that, pretty much the same old podcast, without the Paul McCartney song. So enjoy. Do me a favor, open the door and let him in. Thank you very much.
Come on, let's see that tape, Skywalker. Will you come on? Give me that. Come on. Cut it out, Wendy. Aha! Looks like this tape's been played a few thousand times. Give it back. The great Luke Skywalker, hero of the universe. When are you gonna grow up, Luke? When are you gonna grow up?
Welcome, everybody, to the IGUSW podcast. My name is Tom Burgess. Welcome. What you just heard was Wings, Let 'Em In. That was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Heard that in heavy rotation whenever I turned on the radio. So that was also dedicated to our first visit with Jason Luttrell. Thanks, Jason, for suggesting it. I know you like that one. Of course, I like that one quite a bit, too. We're going to be calling up our guest here in a few moments, but I first wanted to talk a little bit more about when I was a kid, and I did quite a few audio recordings, growing up, breaking out the old tape player. I think I got that a lot from my dad. He used to have a den office, and he used to record a lot of albums to 8-track, which was kind of fun. I knew when he was recording to 8-track when the door to the den was closed. Every once in a while, I would completely forget that meant that he was recording. I would break in and, ask him a question or tell him something. And that, of course, would screw up his recordings. And a lot of those showed up on those 8-track recordings, so I'd like to find some of those. But going back to my own recordings, I used to get my brother into these recordings, and I remember that we had a tape player. It was attached to a microphone, and the microphone had the power toggle switch, and if you turned that off and on, it would actually turn the power off and on to the tape recorder. So when you did that, it kind of had this weird shaky voice. I had a great idea one day that I would use my brother as the voice of a space alien, and his plan was to take over the Earth. So let's hear that little snippet. This is part 1 of 2. I think this is going to end with quite a cliffhanger. And also, if you understand what my brother is saying, maybe there's a way you can reach me, admin@IGUSW.com. I'm pretty sure I know what he's saying, but if you listen in carefully and maybe transcribe what he's actually telling me about his global domination, that would be great. So probably the Facebook page you can post underneath the link to the podcast, or admin@IGUSW.com, and let me know what you think he says. So let's take a listen right now.
Hello! Oh no, here's a big monster!
Hello, here's this big monster from space. We are taking over the earthly humans for our jobs. We're gonna fire at you. You're our enemies. Here's this big monster again. This is my drone. When you hear me like this, I get mad and fire at everybody I see. You're pretty great.
Big monster, you can't take over this earth.
Okay, I'll go to another planet.
Okay, now, then get out of here, you stupid monster.
I'm tricking on my video.
All right, so there it is, part 1 of 2. Yeah, that was recorded in about, I'm thinking probably 1980. Hope you liked it. Part 2 is probably coming next episode, and as a special little treat, I have included a fun little edit, visual edit of that recording in the enhanced podcast. I'm going to link that as well. So I hope you like it. But I think now it's time to give our friend Rob O'Hara a call. We're going to be discussing a few of his photos in the gallery. So let's go ahead. Let's pick up that phone and dial Rob O'Hara. There we go. This would be a lot quicker if I had touch tone at least. I mean, this is ridiculous. The number is dialing. Hey, is this Rob?
Hey, it is. Who's this?
This is Tom. Tom, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Hey, thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I hit you up on Facebook just maybe an hour ago, and I asked you to come on the show, and I'm so glad you did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always up for talking about old Star Wars stuff.
What I'm going to do is I've got a few show notes here. And what I'm going to do is ask you a few questions. I've found out a lot about you from some friends of mine that work for me on the podcast here. And apparently you've got a few podcasts of your own, obviously. You Don't Know Flack.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sprite Castle, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Also a part of Throwback Reviews.
Yes, that's right.
You're on the occasional segment Talking Tech on one of my favorites, the RetroOS podcast.
I am, yeah. That's always fun to do.
I see in my notes that you also played Boxy on the classic Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Wait a second.
No.
That's what it says here.
No, that doesn't sound right, Tom.
My show notes tell. Okay, so forget that. Apparently, back in the early '80s, you auditioned to play Murdoch's son on a script for the A-Team that never came out. That's pretty cool. How did that go?
No, I think who's doing your show notes there, Tom?
I got puppets doing my show notes. So
yeah.
Okay, forget that. You've written a few books?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. What are those books?
What
have you written?
I did Commodore in 2006, which is a story. It's about old computer BBS tales of dial-up BBSs, the old days, pre-internet days. And then in 2008, I did Invading Spaces, which is a book about my experiences of buying, selling, and collecting arcade machines. Nice.
I'm definitely into arcade machines. It also says here that you briefly dated Molly Ringwald. That's kind of this isn't this kind of podcast, but how did that go?
I don't remember.
Are you kidding me?
No.
You never did you?
No, I would have written a book about that if that had happened.
So you probably didn't write the Be a Pepper, Dr. Pepper jingle, or write to NASA and insist they named their first space shuttle after your grandma's dog Enterprise.
No, that didn't happen.
It's just stupid. Okay, well, tell you what. Let's go with something we do know about. Let's go with the photos. Let's do some of the first few photos here on I Grew Up Star Wars that you have donated.
Okay.
And I am looking for everybody, if you are listening in, and if you are listening to my voice and Rob's, you are most definitely listening in. Turn the browser to page Rob240. I'm going to have a link probably on the Facebook page and the show notes. But we're going to go to Rob240. That's photo 240 in the gallery. It looks like this one, Rob, was taken in 1978, Christmas time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the picture of me. I'm kneeling in front of the bed. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. This was Christmas of 78. I know it's funny that a lot of people, I think, people that are somewhat familiar with Star Wars, like they watched the movies when they were kids, but they weren't really into it. A lot of people have incorrect memories, and that's why I'm really glad to have some of these photos to document things.
Definitely.
A lot of people, they know that Star Wars came out in 77, and so they say, oh, and that Christmas I got all those toys. But as you know, and I'm sure a lot of people on the podcast know, there weren't any toys available the Christmas of 77.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, these came out probably early-ish mid 78.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are at Christmas 78.
Right. I've got and if you look here in this photo, and if you're looking at the photo, I mean, if the listeners are looking at it, there are I've got a TIE fighter, just the normal TIE fighter, not a Darth Vader TIE fighter.
Right.
A land speeder and an X-wing fighter. And one thing that's interesting in this photo as I'm looking at it is there are 7 action figures, because you could kind of zoom in here. You've got Darth Vader in the TIE fighter.
Absolutely.
You've got Princess Leia driving the land speeder for some reason. I don't know. Maybe she had to go run an errand or something, and so she took over the land speeder. And
exactly. Well, let's not limit the land speeder's use just to one planet. They probably had land speeders all over the place.
They were all over. So this is her little weekend ship.
Absolutely.
And then you have an X-wing fighter with everybody else hanging out over here. You have Luke. You can see C-3PO sitting behind him. R2-D2, Han Solo, and then Obi-Wan over there on the other side. So. Very conspicuously missing from this photo would be Chewbacca and a stormtrooper.
I wonder where they're off to.
I don't know. They might have. Maybe they took one of the other land speeders. And
you had 2?
Well,
or maybe you just had one that. Well, yeah.
They're off.
I got you.
They're in search for. They went to go look for Molly Ringwald in the sequel.
Yeah, I got this crappy show notes. Sorry about that.
But I have specific memories of this morning, of that Christmas morning, going out and pulling off the stocking, because we always had the stockings that hung by our fireplace that Santa would put things in, and dumping the stocking out, and just like a never-ending series of Star Wars figures tumbling out of the stocking.
I think a lot of people went through that same similar memory. I know I did, and that was just magic.
Oh man, and just stuff. One after another, because I think maybe some kids that maybe only got like 1 or 2 action figures, like if you had. Let's say Luke and Obi-Wan. Well, you're going to do a lot of playing like a Tatooine, I mean, those kind of scenes, or
right,
or maybe different things like that. But when you had all of them, you could just do the whole movie. I mean, you have obviously, there were a lot more characters that came along, and we've spent the last 30 years buying them all. But
right. So what we're looking at here is pretty much you've got the King's Ransom here. You've got almost everything that was available as far as action figure goodness goes in for Christmas 1978. You've got the TIE Fighter, you've got the Land Speeder, the X-Wing. Half of the figures are there because there were only 12 that came out for 1978. That you would have been my best friend. I wouldn't have given you a choice. I would have had to come to your house all the time and probably try to steal figures from you. But that's for another episode.
I was definitely the Star Wars kid in my neighborhood, and my birthday is in August. So pretty much, like halfway through the year, in the summer, I would get a few Star Wars things for my birthday, and then the next year for Christmas, a few months later, I would get Star Wars things for Christmas, and that went from 1978 until, probably 84. I think, as I look through my collection of vintage figures and play sets and ships, I'm missing a lot of the things that came out towards the end of Return of the Jedi. Like I never had I never had a Tiderian shuttle. I never had ATST, those types of things. So I think a lot of the things that started coming out towards the end of that, by 84 that year, I would have been 11, about 12. So I think I might have moved on to maybe some other interests or whatever. But that, from those years, man, 78 to about 84, I had Christmas Star Wars every year. There was always something under the tree.
Oh yeah, definitely the golden age. Hey, what day were you born in August?
22nd.
22nd. Okay, I'm August 13th myself.
Okay.
Very cool. So anything else we want to talk about as far as this particular slide goes?
Well, let's see here. I'm just kind of looking. I can tell you that although they are not in the same condition that you see them, I still own everything that's in this photo. Well, as far as Star Wars, I don't think I have those pants anymore. But
Nice.
But yeah, on the shelf, my collection here in my room, I kind of have divided up into different things. Like, I've got a Power of the Force area. I've got, action figures kind of stuff. And then I have a set of shelves that's, all the vintage things that I used to own. And so I still have that TIE Fighter sitting here. I still have the Land Speeder. And all the ships are in. I mean, they're all still complete. The X-Wing has all the wings, which was important, and all the guns and the cockpit, and all these figures. I can tell you, just looking at these, I know that my Princess Leia is not in as good a shape as you can see it here, because not only does she no longer have her little cape there, but I know that at one point one of our dogs mauled her face. Yeah, slightly. So she's
well, that's okay. You're keeping up with the constants of we all get older. Carrie Fisher probably doesn't look the way she used to back in 1978. Yeah. That's okay. We'll just let that go. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, definitely. My Leia, I know, is battle worn, and some of the figures over time, like I have purchased another Princess Leia, one that's in much better condition than my original, but on my display shelf, I still have the original one behind there, and so I've always kept those, even though I may have upgraded and bought a nicer one. I've still kept the ones that I had as a kid.
I wish I would have done that, because about 12, 15 years ago or so, I got the great idea to, has it been 12 years ago already? eBay? I don't know what the history of eBay is, but the early days of eBay, I got the great idea to make a little cash. There went all my vintage childhood figures and toys. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking. It's probably after watching episode 1, I was about ready to cash in and do something else, but I came back. So it's all gone. But I did acquire some other fantastic pieces, so I was lucky with that. So
we all have scars from episode 1.
big scars. Yeah, I can't pull up my shirt anymore. It's pretty bad. Let's turn the page to Rob 241, and here we go. We flash back a little bit before it was 1978. Here we are 2 years later, and it looks like Rob is once again mugging for the camera and showing his new, looks like it might be a new playset there you've got there, Rob.
Yeah, let's take a look here. And one thing I have to say is that I'm so glad. My dad was really into photography. So he was always like, we would go to the fair or something. And you remember, of course, back then, way pre-digital, you would buy your roll of film and you would have, 24 shots or something. And so there were always a few shots left on those rolls of film, and so he would always come taking, pictures of whatever we were doing in our rooms and stuff. So I'm really lucky in that aspect, because I know a lot of people, and there's lots of people that had Star Wars toys and things like that, but I'm really fortunate to have pictures of a lot of these.
Yeah, we're pretty, it's funny, we're pretty similar. My dad was really into cameras and photography and pre-video. I mean, we had the film cameras and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I was lucky to have these, and obviously you are really lucky to have these also. So, and to share with me on IGUSWPODCAST, which is definitely appreciated. But so what have you got here? It looks like you've got you've got the Hoth playset, Now this one could have been better. This was the cardboard kind of particle board sort, not even particle board.
No, yeah, straight up cardboard. Yeah,
slightly thicker cardboard, but not that much better than, say, I don't know, paper.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm sure it was the same thickness as the cardboard the playset
the box it came with, yeah,
or maybe
exactly.
thinner, yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's the Hoth playset that everybody. I mean, even as a little kid, immediately I noticed, hey, this is the same base from the Tatooine set I got like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks. I think the guys at Kenner were hoping, since it was white, no one would notice.
Right.
But,
well, it has
yeah.
the tracks, right across it from the Sandcrawler.
True.
That you notice on there. So I remember. I don't think I was disappointed per se, but I did notice, even as a little kid. So we've got that, and then to the left of that we have the and. I've always called this the Imperial Troop Transport. I know it has a couple of different names from different releases.
Yeah, I always called it the Troop Transport also. This was the glorious first version with the push-button sound effects, right?
Yes. So you put your batteries up there and the little there's like the little red battery cover up there towards the back. And,
absolutely.
And you got 6 different sound effects, and the cool thing from this, I think this is maybe, I don't know, you might know better than I do. This is the first toy I remember, the Star Wars toy that wasn't really featured in the movies.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This was a toy that they kind of pitched as being just slightly off camera. So
that comic book. Do you remember the comic book?
Yeah. I might throw a couple of pictures of that in the show notes there, because I still have the little comic.
Yeah,
book.
I do too. And
Darth Vader booming over the intercom of the stormtroopers. You find the droids or don't come back at all, or something to that effect. It was good stuff.
There's that. I guess as a kid, this was your first. I never thought about this as a kid. Like when you see the scene that's inside the Hoth base, and there's all these different things going on, but of course we're focused on Han Solo. He's working on the Millennium Falcon, or they're getting ready to ride out on Tauntauns, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. And so this toy is kind of like, it gives you that little glimpse into, hey, there's a lot of stuff in Star Wars that wasn't on screen. There's stuff going on in the background, and it also let us know that we were going to be paying for new toys for a long time.
There's, when you're watching the films and you're not really, exactly what you said, not really focusing on the main action, you're looking kind of beyond that. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on that was just kind of happenstance, but is really kind of fun to watch in itself.
There's a lot of, like these little vehicles, there's some driving around in that Hoth base, and they're probably a golf cart or something that somebody slapped a body on or whatever, but it's still cool just to now that we've seen the movie so many times, and you know what the plot is, and what Han Solo looks like, or what the Millennium Falcon. And now as I watch, sometimes I'll watch the movies with my kids or something, I'm more focused on what's going on in the background, or what are the things that we've missed over the years.
Right. Yeah. Actually, you were, when you mentioned that, you were recently in California, and you live in Oklahoma now, but
yes.
Yeah, and you visited Rancho Obi-Wan, and did you get to see his little troop transport that he's got?
It was parked in the driveway. It was the first thing we saw. When we pulled in, I was like, holy crud, like, and of course I didn't know, like, is this a screen use thing or whatever, so I didn't really know until I went back and did some research on it. But we got to, stand around it, look inside it, check it out, and that Steve Sansweet has such a cool collection. I was joking with him towards the end of the tour, and I assume a lot of people listening to this know about Rancho Obi-Wan, but if you don't, the very high level is it is the largest privately owned collection of Star Wars memorabilia. It's
that's right,
9,000 square foot of, so anything, like, if you're like me, like most of my collection are things that I owned as a kid or have seen along the way. He has one. You're not going to stump him. You're not going to say, oh, I bet you don't have, the things that I think of as being rare, or even a few years ago, like, there was a time where you set yourself, like, I guess as far as like in your neighborhood or something, like you were, like I was the kid with a blue snaggletooth and nobody else had one. And you're like, oh, that made you a little cooler. But then then you get on the internet and you find out that everybody has a blue snaggletooth. And then you're like, oh, but I have, one of these. And you're like, you kind of one up, well, I have, this kind of, or a helmet that was used in the movie, or I have, a piece of the Death Star. He's got one of that. He's got one of something that you wish you had. He's got one of things that you didn't know existed. I mean, it is an incredible collection. And as we were getting towards the end of the tour, I asked him if he ever saw, like, because I went with my kids and my wife, and I asked him if he ever heard people like, I guess what I had expected was that my wife would get very concerned that I would start getting these ideas of, collecting more.
You need to step it up.
Right. And he said it's usually the opposite. He said normally wives or spouses of Star Wars collectors, they feel a lot better when they go home because they're like, well, thank God, our house doesn't look like this. So
true.
So he said it kind of has the opposite effect, but
that's funny.
But
Steve's a great guy, and yeah, I'm glad you got to check it out. I have not yet.
Oh,
most of my friends here with our Seattle Sarlacc group, they've all gone down, and he's been up here a few times. We had the ICE deal with a lot of collectors. It was kind of an exclusive little get together, and we got to talk to him, and we had him on the Galaxy of Toys podcast and that kind of thing. So it's really cool to talk to him candidly, and it's really also kind of neat to see what he's done. He used to work for Lucasfilm, and of course he's written quite a few books on collecting and that kind of thing, which is awesome. But to meet him is just really, really great because, number one, he's a good guy, and number two, he has the craziest, most insane collection that none of us could possibly. Well, but the thing is, you put it all in perspective when you go there, because if you were to go, I think he's been collecting since Star Wars came out, so for you to try to emulate a collection like that is just impossible, because he definitely has a lot of fan-made things, a lot of items like that, items that he got from the ground floor. He was getting these toys in pristine condition right off the racks at Kmart, Payless, wherever he was, and he kept them. And to get a collection like that nowadays would be, it's just impossible. So it's a once in a lifetime, one-to-one collection with no one being able to get near anything like that.
He told us that his best estimate is that he has between 400 and 500,000 items in his collection. So you can do the math. I mean, if you come up with whatever average price, I mean, obviously there are things, if you're into collecting the Star Wars Bindi characters, okay, you could probably get those for $1. If you're collecting, everybody knows I love Bendos too.
Right.
So if you buy 500,000 of them at $1 each, I mean, that you could see what I mean, that would be the minimum, I guess, of owning 500,000 Star Wars items. And a lot of his things are just, he has a lot of things. I think that it wasn't KB. It was an FAO Schwartz, maybe, that he had some different things like the animated Biff, the Cantina guys.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was right. That was one of their displays.
Right.
I believe.
And so he has things like that. And I don't even know how you would put a price on that, so.
Yeah. Speaking of one-to-one, there's a perfect example right there. So yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm looking at this picture again, and now I'm coming full circle now because I'm thinking about that troop transport, and now I'm looking at this one again. And something, I don't think I noticed this when I originally sent you this picture, but obviously in the background there's also Star Wars pillowcases.
There you go.
And I may have Star Wars sheets on this bed. It kind of looks like it. So, I mean,
were you Were you a Miami Dolphins fan? Those
No.
look like Miami Dolphin sheets. I could be wrong, but
No, I don't know. Maybe it's
I don't know.
Winnie the Pooh or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't. Oh, you know what? You're right, because there's something that says USA here or something. I'm not sure what that is, but there's definitely Star Wars pillows in the background.
Yep, definitely.
And as far as figures, again, you have the normal Star Wars crew here. It looks like I think that's a stormtrooper driving the troop transport, which would make sense.
Yep.
Now we see Chewie. I think these are all our good guys here that have been captured. We've got Chewie, looks like C-3PO, and
looks like Lando's been drinking behind this.
Is that? Yeah.
That looks like Lando.
Right.
I don't know what he's been up to there.
He found the stash of Colt 45 there in Bespin, and he's
exactly.
And let's see. Then over here on the Hoth playset, it looks like a X-wing Luke,
right?
A C-3PO who may have also dipped into the spirits there at
well, it looks like Boba Fett might have joined him there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and then I see.
Well, what we'll do to assist all of our viewers, we're going to have those ridiculously annoying arrows that are pointing to all of them. Like a kind of the trend of the internet nowadays. Apparently, you can't. You go on the internet and that clickbait stuff.
Oh,
you've got
yeah.
Big red circles and arrows pointing at everything, so you don't miss a thing. So let's keep going here. It looks like so you've got C-3PO and Boba Fett there. They looked a little passed out there, and R5D4.
Yeah, it looks like him.
Hoth Han maybe.
Yeah.
Is there someone before R5D4?
It looks like there's something standing there, but I don't know what that would be.
That might be.
Oh, is that part? I think that's part of the picture of that.
That could be the
drop.
picture.
Okay,
yeah,
that's the rear leg there.
And then it looks like you've got Vader without a cape. Maybe it was hot on Hoth.
This is very positive. Well, and unfortunately, Hoth was also inhabited by a series of dogs that like to attack Star Wars characters. So, the capes were unfortunately the first thing to usually go.
As if Wampas weren't bad enough.
Now, this troop transport, I actually didn't know for years that there was a second version, the I don't know what you would call it, the non-talking version or whatever.
Right.
And so my mom had actually gone to a garage sale, and I think she had asked the people, hey, do you have anything Star Wars? My son likes Star Wars things. And they came up with one of these, which is just in about as bad a condition. I think the little side pods where the people stand are still on it, but there are no other parts. There's no doors. There's no back door or anything. And so she brought it to me and said, maybe you can use it for a pencil holder on your desk.
There you go.
So I said, okay. And so when I looked at it, I was like, well, this thing is a lot lighter. And, of course, then I'm looking at the back, and there's a lot more storage space in here. And so that was really the first time that I realized that they had released a couple of different versions of this thing.
Yeah, that was kind of a disappointment because I'm sure kids still remembered the sound version, and then getting the cheaper version that had no sounds, that must have been a disappointment for some kids. Wasn't for me. I was lucky enough to actually get the first round of the troop transport, which was awesome.
Oh yeah. Now, I on the other picture, I said that I owned everything that was still in that picture.
Right.
I own most of what's in this picture, and believe it or not, I think I do still have those pillowcases and the matching curtains that went with them.
Nice.
And of course, I have my troop transport, and I have the base to that Hoth playset, but I don't think that piece of cardboard made the 30-year journey into today's collection. I think that cardboard.
Did the Hoth dogs help themselves?
I do remember at some point, the assembly of this AT-AT, which is sticking halfway off the cardboard, was the quintessential slot A going into tab B, or right. It just kind of folded together and stuck through there. And as those pieces in the back got worn, it wouldn't stay there. So they would pop out. And so I do remember for a while owning this and having the entire back of it covered with masking tape. Trying to hold it together.
Not a bad way to handle those tabs coming loose, for sure.
But
I never got these. I was kind of bummed out. But really, when you're looking at this, looks awesome now. But
yeah,
maybe I wasn't missing much. I don't know.
No, it's definitely no substitute for the real Kenner AT-AT. I mean, you could stick somebody in the head portion up there from the back and kind of see them through the window.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
And then, you have it's the same mechanism, the lift mechanism, which made sense in, the Tatooine version of this, because you had the Sandcrawler.
Correct.
And you would put a droid in there, and then you remember from Star Wars when they used their vacuum and they sucked R2-D2 up into it. And so that kind of made sense. But in this, I just don't remember anybody getting sucked into the belly of an AT-AT.
Well, I mean, back then, of course, it wasn't really explained. So
right.
when you're looking at this mechanism, it's I guess back then you have to put your head in yourself. That was weird. You have to put your head in yourself in 1980 and go, this sounds completely plausible.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just going to go with this.
You never question it. Oh, and we didn't mention, kind of right near the back of the Imperial troop transport there, and right in front of the Hoth is the little Hoth. What is that? The laser cannon.
Yeah.
And
wow,
those things. Maybe not, these Hoth things, because they're built out of cardboard, probably didn't survive. I mean, I'm sure there's some around, but they tended to get trashed a little bit. But those cannons, I see those everywhere. I used to, before, of course, we talk about the glorious days before eBay, when you actually found Star Wars things at garage sales, or people would just give you, they would say, oh, I used to collect Star Wars and I don't like it anymore. Here you go. Before they found out, or, at least thought that a Millennium Falcon missing every part was going to get them $500 on eBay or something.
Most chewed up Darth Vaders are going to send kids to college.
Oh, well, good.
Who knew about that?
Good, because I got 2 of them and 2 kids. So, but
perfect.
Those laser cannons, those have survived everything. I find those all. I probably at one time had half a dozen of them where. I just, if somebody would give me some old Star Wars things, you would find, the common action figures, maybe an X-Wing missing all the parts or something, and one of these cannons, So my Hoth bases were very heavily defended.
And let's not forget the video that we talked about briefly at the start of the recording, or the call, excuse me. The video that you sent me of you filming a couple of your friends, 3 of your friends playing Hoth battle.
Yes, the Battle of Hoth, and I'm sure that this exact laser cannon is in that video.
Yeah,
and this base plate here, I think. I think that has the other 2 sets. You've got the Rebel one, that has the big gun turret with the Probot set.
Right.
And then you have the other, I guess it was the Imperial one that was, was it? I can't remember if it was Imperial or if it was good guys or bad guys. It didn't really matter in my movies, but the one that had all the collapsing ice bridges and.
Yeah, that was the. I can't think of it now. That's all right. Yeah. That's all right. Yeah, I know everybody. If that was the premium playset to get back then. I mean, if it wasn't the Dagobah playset, it was the Imperial Attack Base.
Yes.
That's it. There you go.
I'm looking at mine right now. Mine seems to have looks like a Hoth Luke standing in it and a Wampa right behind him.
Nice.
And you know what? And a laser cannon. So
any of you interested in actually seeing these playsets in action in Rob O'Hara's universe, I'll also include a link. That way we can kind of check out a ongoing heated battle against the rebels in the Empire. Who wins? Who knows? Who cares? But there you go. It is what it is. Rob, let's kind of wind this down. But what I would like to do first is I don't know if you're familiar with my rapid retro reaction game that I like to play.
Oh, what is this?
Are you ready? Okay, so what you have to do is put your mind in little Rob O'Hara of 1980.
All right.
I'm going to ask you 5 questions random questions. They might be about Star Wars. They might not be. I want you to answer them as quickly as you can, and we'll see what comes out of Rob O'Hara's mind at 10 years old. How about that? All right, here we go. Let's roll the theme song.
So, what's on the program for today, Fixer?
Speed run, Skywalker. Speed run.
Alrighty, here we go. Number 1, Rob O'Hara's favorite breakfast cereal.
Count Chocula.
Favorite arcade game.
I'm gonna probably say Donkey Kong.
Favorite console game of 1980.
Pitfall.
Did you have a lunchbox you brought to school? What kind of lunchbox was it?
An Empire Strikes Back lunchbox, the red plastic one, which I still have, which had all 4 of the. It had Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie in front of Hoth.
Final question:
Right.
Your favorite Star Wars figure?
This is going to sound terrible, but
Oh boy,
I had gone at this would be ball. It might be 81, but I had gone on a vacation to go see family in Chicago, and out in a field I found Dengar.
you're gonna go with Dengar?
You know, because the thing was, he was so mysterious. Like, I didn't know anything about him. I thought he was going to be this incredible kind of bounty hunter type guy, you know?
Right.
And he had, everything about him. He had the scars on him. And I thought, this guy, certainly he's going to be amazing in Return of the Jedi when he makes his return.
Yes.
And he deals with all these petty little Jedi and rebels. But unfortunately, he did not. He was in the movie for 5 seconds or whatever. And so, but I mean, a close second, I got to say, would be Boba Fett, which was every kid loved Boba Fett. I know Boba Fett gets a lot of grief today, and that the legend of Boba Fett is much bigger than the on-screen version of Boba Fett. But there was something about that Dengar figure that I like. When I would set up, the little play sets of here's all the stormtroopers, and then I remember setting up I had this whole play thing that I would set up with Bespin. And so you had, all the stormtroopers that were getting ready to pounce on the rebels, and you're going to have this big fight. And then you had Lobot, who, is calling the shots. But then behind that, I had Dengar. It was like he was the boss,
I think they just pulled Dengar out of intensive care. They needed someone to stand behind everybody. Dengar, come on, buddy. I know you're bleeding profusely. Just wrap this stuff around your head. Just stand there for a few minutes. You'll be fine. We'll say cut. We'll send you back to the hospital.
We've got some extra armor and a mummy costume. What can we,
exactly?
what
yeah.
can we make out of that? But
it's a great combination. Really.
I honestly thought, as a kid, a lot of the people that you saw in Star Wars came back in Empire Strikes Back, and so I guess
now, I think you're flipped around. So we were talking Empire, and then they came back in Return of the Jedi, right?
But that's what I'm saying is you had these characters, and then you saw them in the second film, and so when I saw Dengar and these other people in IG-88, I thought these guys are going to kick ass in the third film, and then and then they never came back, So at the time, I was really into the bounty hunters, but also as I look back older now too, I think, boy, we would buy anything back then. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like what you said, there's here's a guy with, ace bandages on his head. Just give him a gun. Well, I'll buy that,
Perfectly acceptable. I'll take 2.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah. They did have some crazy characters, but, yeah, funny. Rob, thanks for joining me. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, we did go over some of the stuff that you've done, some of the stuff you haven't done. Anything you want to plug before we end the call?
You know what? If you want to find links to my podcasts or books or anything else like that, you can find them all at robohara.com. You just go there and there's links to my Facebook and Twitter and all the stuff I've done. You could go there.
Perfect. Thanks, and definitely check out Rob's stuff. He's got a lot of really cool things going on, and it would be foolish for you not to. Thanks, Rob.
Well, thanks. I'm going to go play with Dengar right now.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, there you go. So track 2 is in the can, and I think we're going to wrap up this episode right now. So I want to thank Rob O'Hara for gracing me with his presence today, talking a little bit about his childhood and the photos that we posted on IGUSWPodcast.com. Would also like to thank the creator of our intro and outro music, Super Robotic Encounters. Good stuff. And we will sign off right now. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hello, we hope you enjoyed your programming today. That was
IGUSWPodcast podcast.
Tom Burgess.
And his friends. Don't forget that.
Well, bye. Hello. Oh no, here's a big monster.
Hello, is this big monster from space? We are taking over the Earth unit for our jobs. We can fire at you or our enemies. Here's this big monster again. This is my drone. When you hear me like this, I get mad and fire to rid our idea. It's pretty rare.
Big monster, you can't take over this Earth.
Okay, I'm going to another planet.
Hey, now, then get out of here, you stupid monster.
I'm tricking on my man, baby.